You are staring at a Wells Fargo balance of $211, and it is July, and everyone you follow is somewhere with blue water behind them. 5 levels from now, a villa in Positano bills your account $4,800 a night, and you do not blink because you are reading a contract on the terrace, and the invoice is handled by someone whose name you barely remember. This is the distance between where you are and where the ocean looks different, depending on what you can afford. This is your life at every level of vacation, from $0 and a couch to $250,000 and a private island. Somewhere in this video, you will hear a trip that sounds exactly like the last trip you took. When you hear it, pay attention to what comes next. That is your roadmap or your warning. Depends on how honest you are with yourself right now. Your vacation budget is 0. You requested the days off in March because your manager asked everyone to submit PTO before the system locked. You picked a week in August because it seemed far away, and maybe by then, something would change. Nothing changed. It is now that week in August and you are home. You tell yourself it is a staycation, a word invented to make staying home sound like a decision instead of a constraint. You sleep until 11 on a Tuesday, not because you are resting, but because there is nothing expensive enough to get up for. You eat cereal for lunch. You open Instagram, and a girl you went to high school with is in Tulum, standing on a dock in a white dress. The water behind her is the color of a screensaver. You double tap. You keep scrolling. A couple from your office is in Portugal. Your cousin is at a lake house. Your thumb moves and your chest tightens, and you cannot name the feeling exactly, but it sits between envy and shame with a thin wall between them. 28% of Americans say they cannot afford a vacation in a given year. You are in that number. You do not tell your co-workers this. On Monday, someone in the break room will ask what you did over the break. You will say, just relaxed, honestly needed it, and smile and pour your coffee and walk away. That small lie will cost you nothing and everything at the same time. You rearrange your living room on Thursday because movement feels like progress. You watch an entire season of something you will not remember by September. You go to bed Sunday night and feel less rested than when the week started. Doing nothing when you chose nothing is peace. Doing nothing when you can afford nothing is a different frequency entirely. The first rule of travel is this: the people who need a vacation the most are the ones who can never afford to take one. Then one night in February, your friend Marcus texts the group chat. Road trip, Memorial Day weekend. We split everything 4 ways. I found a campsite that's $18 a night. Your budget is $500 and you count every dollar before you leave. You are 24. You Venmo Marcus $127 for your share of gas and campsite fees before you even pack. You pack wrong. 2 pairs of jeans, not enough socks, a jacket you will not need. 4 of you in a 10-year-old Honda Accord with 114,000 miles, and an Accord and a cooler in the trunk. Gas station ice, turkey sandwiches in Ziploc bags, and a 12-pack that cost $16.99. You stop at a pilot station outside Knoxville and buy beef jerky and a $1.29 coffee. You stand in a parking lot, stretching your legs, and for the first time in a year, something in your ribcage loosens. The campsite is a flat clearing near a river in the Smokies. Your tent was $34 on Amazon and the zipper sticks. None of this matters because the fire is going and someone has a speaker and the stars are absurd. You're laughing at something that is not even funny, but the context makes it perfect. You spend $40 on all your meals across 3 days. You swim in water cold enough to make you gasp. You take exactly 1 photo worth posting. The four of you silhouetted against a sunset that looks AI generated but isn't, and it gets more likes than anything you have ever uploaded. The total cost is $487. You check your account when you get home and wince. But the feeling lasts 3 weeks. This is the level most people will remember when they are old. Not the resort, not the flight, the $500 trip with people who didn't care what anything cost, because nothing cost anything. Remember this. It becomes important later. You open a travel credit card, the Chase Sapphire Preferred, $95 annual fee, and you put your routine spending on it for 8 months and accumulate 73,000 points. Now you understand what the phrase travel hacking actually means? Your budget is $1,500, and this is the first time you fly. You are 27. The airport overwhelms you in a way you did not expect. Not the security line or the gate, but the scale, the ceilings, the terminal, the moving walkways, the people who seem bored by all of it. You are not bored. You board a plane to Cancun on a ticket that cost you $38 in fees after points. Your seat is 32B, and your knees touch the seat in front of you. None of this matters because the window shows you a landscape made of clouds. You understand for the first time why people become different versions of themselves when they travel. The resort is an all-inclusive booked on Costco travel for $189 a night. The wristband on your arm means everything is free, which means nothing is free. But the illusion is strong enough that you order a third drink at lunch without doing math. You eat at the buffet every morning. You sit by a pool next to strangers and feel a strange, borrowed peace. You post 4 photos. You come home with a sunburn and $212 left on the credit card statement. But something has changed. You have seen that a plane can take you somewhere that looks nothing like where you live. That knowledge is not intellectual. It is physical. It lives in your shoulders now. Loosened. You start checking Google Flights on your lunch break. You start saving. A raise comes. Then another. You move departments. You negotiate in a way you would not have 2 years ago. Because now you have a reason to need the money to go somewhere specific. Your budget is $3,500, and you plan this one. You are 31. You book an Airbnb in Lisbon, a 1-bedroom in Alfama with a terrace that overlooks the river, $142 a night for 6 nights. You research restaurants. You make a spreadsheet. You pack a carry-on only because someone online said checking a bag is what amateurs do, and you believed them. Lisbon is the first city that makes you feel like a version of yourself you have only imagined. Sitting in a cafe with a glass of Vinho Verde and a pastel de nata, watching trams go by. Unhurried. You eat at restaurants with cloth napkins. You order without converting euros to dollars in your head, which is a lie. You convert every time. But the hesitation has shortened from 5 seconds to 1. You take a photo at a rooftop bar, and it is the first vacation photo you are genuinely proud of. Not performed, not aspirational, just real. You send it to your mother, and she texts back, "Wow, where is this?" And something about her surprise makes you feel both proud and sad in a proportion you cannot explain. You come home and you do not wince at the credit card statement. You pay it off in 2 cycles. The hidden cost at this level is not money. It is re-entry. Your apartment looks smaller when you get back. Your commute feels longer. You have seen how your life could feel. And now, your actual life has a draft in it. A thin, cold line where the window doesn't quite close. The second rule of travel: once you see how you could live, you can never fully unsee it. You change jobs. Your income crosses $140,000. Your partner earns $95,000. You stop thinking about whether you can travel and start thinking about how. Your budget is $8,000, and this is the trip where you turn left. You are 35. You book business class to Rome on points and a cash copay of $389. Delta 1, seat 4A. When you board and turn left instead of right, the flight attendant says your name. Not your seat number, your name. The seat is a pod. It reclines flat. There is a mattress pad and a duvet and a menu printed on cardstock. You eat a meal with real silverware and drink a glass of wine at 38,000 feet, while the people behind the curtain eat pretzels from a foil bag. You do not sleep because you cannot stop looking around. You land in Rome, and a driver holds a sign with your name on it. The hotel is near the Piazza Navona, $310 a night, and there are fresh flowers in the room that no one told you about. You eat cacio e pepe at a trattoria with no English menu, and your partner says this is the best meal of their life. You believe them. You spend $220 on a dinner for two and do not photograph it. You are learning that the best experiences resist documentation. Your friends back home ask how the trip was, and you say, amazing, and show them photos. They say, wow, jealous, and something imperceptible shifts in the room. Not resentment, not yet, but a measurement is being taken. You have crossed a line that your friend group can feel but not name. Travel, at this level, begins to separate you from people whose context has not changed. Nobody says this aloud. Your company is acquired. Your equity vests. The number in your brokerage account crosses a threshold that makes your accountant suggest a different kind of advisor. Your budget is $25,000, and the trip is not a trip. It is a production. You are 42. A travel advisor, not an agent, an advisor, the distinction matters at this level, curates a 9-day itinerary along the Amalfi Coast. A private villa outside Ravello, $3,400 a night, with a chef named Lucia who cooks dinner on the terrace while the sun drops behind Capri. A boat chartered for a day to take you to grottos that public tours do not reach. A private guide walks you through Pompeii before the gates open to the general public. You spend $610 on a lunch in Positano, and the wine list has no prices, and you do not ask. You learn the difference between tourist and traveler. Tourists see a place. Travelers are absorbed by it. You are neither. You are a client. The experience is extraordinary, but it is also engineered. Every surprise was planned. Every moment of spontaneity was scheduled. You take almost no photos. You come home and people ask where you went, and you say Italy. They say, oh, we went to Italy last year. Where did you stay? You say Ravello, and they say, oh, we were in Rome. The conversation is technically about the same country, but you both know it is not about the same experience, and neither of you says so. Your social circle has narrowed to 12 people. 8 of them have a net worth above $2 million. You did not choose this. The filter chose you. Then one morning, a business partner mentions a place, not a hotel, not a resort, an island, and sends a link with no price on it. Because at that level, the price is a conversation, not a number. Your budget is $250,000. You are 51, and the island is in the Exumas, and it is yours for 7 nights. A Gulfstream G65 flies you from Teterboro at $14,000 an hour. 5 hours of flight time. The cabin is configured for 8, but there are 4 of you, and the silence is so total it hums. You land on a private strip. A golf cart drives you to a villa with an infinity pool that spills into the Caribbean, and a staff of 11, chef, butler, 2 housekeepers, a boat captain, a dive instructor, a massage therapist, and 3 people whose roles you never fully identify. The villa costs $28,000 a night. You eat stone crab that was in the ocean 4 hours ago. You snorkel a reef that has no other humans on it. The water is so clear it does not look like water. It looks like the absence of anything between you and the sand. And, on the third night, you are standing on the deck watching a sunset that is objectively the most beautiful thing you have ever seen. Your phone buzzes. It is your CFO about a clause in a term sheet. You answer it. You answer it because you cannot not answer it. You spend 40 minutes on a call while the sky turns purple and then black. When you hang up, the stars are out and someone is setting the table. You sit down and eat, and the food is perfect, and the wine is perfect, and the silence is perfect, and you feel nothing. Not nothing as in peace, nothing as in absence. You have optimized every variable: the villa, the jet, the water, the chef, the staff, the privacy. And the thing that is missing is the thing that money was supposed to buy and cannot. The thing you had for $487 in a campsite in the Smokies, when the zipper was broken and the beer was warm, and Marcus was doing a terrible impression of your boss, and you laughed so hard you couldn't breathe. You would give a meaningful portion of what you have to feel that again. You will not say this to anyone. The third rule of travel, and the last: the best trip of your life will never be the most expensive one. And by the time you learn this, you will have spent a fortune proving it. Somewhere right now, a 23-year-old is looking at a Wells Fargo balance of $194. It is August. Her co-worker just got back from Greece and won't stop talking about it. She scrolls through the photos on her lunch break and double taps and keeps scrolling. The feeling in her chest has no name, but she knows its exact shape. She closes the app. She opens her budget spreadsheet and stares at it for 6 minutes, and then closes that too. Then in February, someone will text the group chat: road trip, Memorial Day. We split everything, and she will go. The tent zipper will stick, and the coffee will be bad, and the fire will be perfect. She will take one photo that gets more likes than anything she has ever posted. And that trip, the cheap one, the uncomfortable one, the one she almost said no to, will be the one she remembers when she is 51 and standing on a deck in the Bahamas, wondering why the sunset isn't landing the way it should. The machine keeps running. New people keep entering. The ocean stays the same. The only thing that changes is what you can see from where you're standing and what you've forgotten you already had.